Hello, winners, and welcome to Two for the Win with your hosts, Nick and Wil. So, last week we talked about entrepreneurship, and we're doing a part two, but something very specific: how to get your first 100 customers. Want to learn more? Well, stay tuned. But first, be sure to share, subscribe, and follow Two for the Win on your favorite platform. And want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, nickmenard.com, and the 1% Push, as well as his Amazon best-selling book, Mindset is My Degree. Thank you, Nick Menard.
You're welcome. Hello, Will. Hello, winners.
Hello, hello. Is it a Manic Monday? No, sir. It's a Mindset Monday. Let's roll. So, really excited about today's topic. Any high-level overview you want to share before we get to one of our favorite segments?
I mean, if you are able to get 200 customers and get the learning for how to get there, you have a lot of chance to get to the next 100 after that. So to get to 200, and then you learn from it, and you go to scale. But the 100th first customer are usually very difficult because you don't know what you don't know. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, first 100 is tougher than the next 1,000. Is like the adage of it for all the reasons you just mentioned. So, all right, shall we get started with
quotes and quips?
All right, winners. The first quote is transparently from ChatGPT, and it's attributed to startup Twitter wisdom. I don't know if that's a person. I don't know if that's an avatar or just a generalization. But if there is Mr. or Mrs. Startup Twitter wisdom, thank you for this. But the quote is, the first 100 customers are made with coffee, sweat, and awkward DMs. Thoughts on that one?
Wow, I can relate. I mean, by the awkward DMs, I interpreted that as in beginning, you so want to sell that you're spending so much time for things you should not be spending, and you try to answer every single questions from potential customer that will never sell, that will never buy anything from you, but they just suck all the energy out of you. And you learn as you go, like very quickly, the prospect who are and will always be prospect. So the awkward DMs, I can relate a lot because I spent way too much time in different businesses that I had with the first few interaction, because I so want to see that teaching, that first client, that second client. And so you learn as you go that spend your time somewhere else that will be way better than to waste your time with people who will just take the energy out of you but never do anything with it. That's the way I interpreted it, and I agree with it.
I agree. I like that you went that direction versus saying, don't send awkward DMs to your customer at 1 a.m. on a Saturday. So that's good.
Absolutely. No, that's also pay attention of that, because then they know that you are just
always on.
Just
available.
Absolutely. And that's usually more bad than good.
Yeah, for sure. One of my more common sayings that I use, especially when I travel quite a bit and I'm away from home, is absence makes the heart grow fonder. Like, don't be too available, because then there's no like little exclusive like treat, right? To be able to interact. So doesn't always work at home, but I still say it. But anyway, all right. So the next one is a quip. And it is from Rob Fitzpatrick, author of The Mom Test. Not quite sure why a male wrote the book The Mom Test, but
hey, it worked out.
I guess written from a son perspective, I suppose. Anyway, the quip is, your mom liking your startup does not count as market validation.
Well, it can go both ways. Your first customer may be someone very close to you, or those may be the most difficult to get. In my experience, for one of the business I had, it was the most difficult person to get was my dad. And I explained that why, and it's in the book as well. But it's not because he didn't trust me. It's because he didn't believe that I was going the right direction by building that business at the time. It was life insurance. And so he was very negative about it. But after a while, he absolutely had everything within my insurance business. So again, it doesn't mean nothing when it comes from someone that loves you, because they do that most of the time to support you. So it doesn't mean that you have something special. So once you start getting, I always said, when you sell to someone you didn't know, when you start the business, that's where you start like seeing that you have something in your hand. If you only sell to family members and close friends, that means not much, so it doesn't mean a lot. So yeah, I love the quip because it's true. I hear all the time, yes, it works. I have a 10 sale. I'm like, great. Who, my neighbor, my dad, my son, my, whatever it is. So I'm like, okay, well, that's a start, but it means very little.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally agree. It works both ways. You can get a false positive validation or a false negative validation. The best validation is with people who you don't necessarily have a relationship with, because that's going to reflect the value of the product or service more, or I should say with less bias, I guess.
100%.
Yeah, on that one. All right. So we've been scratching this itch about building entrepreneurship. And so how to get your first 100 customers. We're going to go through a framework and cover some things. And as always, if you have some ideas or things that worked for you or things you want us to go deeper on, please make sure you comment on the platforms and we will certainly add that into an episode. But the first thing is you need to define your ideal customer profile, or ICP. And so basically on that one, who are you going to market to? Be very specific. Don't just say, oh, anybody in the United States who's willing to buy my product, or anybody in the world. No, be very specific. And the reason why this matters is you're not going to sell to everyone. And usually you get far more effectiveness if you have a very targeted and specific ideal customer profile, because that will guide your marketing efforts, whether it's paid marketing or free marketing, but it'll definitely guide you to be more relevant. And you've probably seen this as well. You scroll, you put in a generic search in a browser or whatever, you get generic results. You do something a lot more specific that has some details, you get results that have a higher tendency to be on the mark. But any thoughts about you? Like obviously when you started your travel business, you had an idea of the market demand, but how did you shape that?
Yeah, so you said it perfectly. The niche, who nicher you are, who better it is. But it's very, very hard to determine the niche. It was the same with the speaking business. Like everybody said, like, who are you going to target? Well, leaders. That's not deep enough. That's not niche enough. Like a leader in real estate industry. Okay, so what kind of leader? Entry level, mid level, late level, like C-level executives. Who more you are getting down into what you exactly want, who better your chance to be successful. But it's a very hard things to do, because you tend to think that you're going to lose a lot of potential customer if you go too niche. So there is a middle ground there. But honestly, the people who are the most successful are people who are extremely specific in what they target. And it doesn't mean they're not going to get other people, but those will be the main target. But if they can prove their service or their product about something very specific with a person or a group of people, who are interested in what you are selling, the word to mouth within this niche will go a lot faster. And it goes both ways. So if you have difficulties as an entrepreneur to think about it, think as a buyer. If you want to, let's do the travel. If you go on Google, you said, I want to travel. What kind of results are you going to get? You're going to get results at the beach, at the Antarctica. You're going to get results in the safari. You're going to get results at $2,000. The results are $100,000. And it's because you need to be more specific to get idea. As an entrepreneur, it's the same thing, but the opposite direction. So it's very important that you are more specific with it. In travel, same thing. What's your niche? What's your specialty? As a travel agent, you can sell anything and everything. You can sell like cruises, lands, group, individual, out of the beaten path, luxury, low level, entry level, vacation, USA, outside, anything. But even though it's not because you can that you have to, all right? But it's very hard again to say no to a customer or to just say, sorry, I'm not doing this. In the beginning, you say yes to everything. And then you start getting into the nitty gritty about what you really are, more knowledgeable about and more passionate about.
Mhm.
And then you start getting at it. And that's what I love about what I'm doing right now with expanding my business to a lot more people within the agency. Well, everybody can think about, I already have 3 people that I know. Okay, if I hear about this, it's gonna go to her. If I hear of this, it's gonna go to him. So
Mhm.
it's what makes it beautiful, but it takes time.
Mhm.
So try to understand. So now I'm working a lot with marketing agencies, and that's the first thing they ask.
Mhm.
What are you specializing in? Well, those two vendors that I want to push the most. Great, they know my target audience.
Mhm.
If I would say cruise,
Yeah. Yeah.
all right, so you have $500 cruise and you have a $100,000 cruise.
Yeah.
I mean, yesterday I saw, like, that's funny because I literally saw the Four Seasons come up with a yacht, ship,
Yeah.
and it's around $40,000 to $50,000 for 2 people for a week,
Okay.
and it only includes breakfast. So people were like all about, that is crazy, the price is insane, and all of people, what's the exact price? But if you ask for the price for something like that, you are not a client, a
Yeah.
potential client.
Right.
Because the potential client know that, okay, if you go to something that luxurious with that brand,
Yeah.
it's gonna be expensive. Don't expect like a Royal Caribbean Norwegian client to
Right.
say, look, I want to do that.
Right.
Like, expect other people, like the Ritz-Carlton Yacht Club, the like things like that, regions, the Seabourn. So this is literally what's happening constantly. So have a niche, understand where you want to put your focus on,
Mhm.
and then go from there.
Yeah. No, well said. It just helps. It's going to help guide you in the beginning. The next step, so step 2 to get your first 100 customers, is build a simple value proposition. So, what is the problem you're trying to solve, and how do you communicate it clearly and crisply so people understand it very quickly? So, there's a different ways you can build a value proposition. The value proposition could be on the service, or the product. The value proposition could be a slight niche for a demographic that you're going after, or it could be some sort of guarantee that you give. So I'll give a few quick examples, date myself a little bit, but back in the day, Domino's had a famous guarantee that they did: receive your pizza in 30 minutes or less, or it's free, right? So there's plenty of pizza parlors around, plenty of places doing pizza delivery, but they identified a frustration point in the market where clients getting pizza that took longer than 30 minutes, and it's not cold, it's not piping hot, and it just
It's
doesn't
cold,
taste
it's
as
not
good.
warm.
Yeah. And so that was a guarantee. So regardless, was their pizza vastly different from other pizzas? At least food delivery pizzas? No. But they focused on a guarantee that would solve a niche. Another one was Uber. So taxis have been around almost as long as automobiles themselves have been around. But it would be frustrating. How do you get the taxi? Trying to hail a taxi, especially you're out late at night, and it was just a pain. And here they're like, you know what? How do we make it easier for people to get rides? But we don't want to invest in a lot of capital into the actual cars and stuff. So we'll come up with Uber. And that exploded. And then they expanded. Now Uber will do grocery shopping. They do go to the drugstore for you. They got Uber Eats, so they're doing the delivery that way. And so they took a concept of convenience to what was needed for the market, and then actually branched off into other things, which is great. And then the third quick example I'll give is, you ever see those phones that have these huge buttons? They're like cell phones for elderly people who can't see well.
Yeah.
So that's a product niche, right? So their phones are around, but they're like, you know what? They don't necessarily, for this particular demographic, they picked a demographic. They're like, they don't need all the bells and whistles. Sometimes they suffer from poor eyesight. So we're going to make it easy with enlarged buttons so that they can dial the phone and do basic functions. And they charge a decent price for those phones, right? So that's a different type. So, it don't always think you have to have something that's completely new or innovative or groundbreaking. A lot of times there's various different pain points associated with any product or service, or a guarantee? Can you find that, identify it, and then make that part of your marketing? And then all of a sudden it's a huge niche, kind of like how organic food, like a decade ago, you never heard about organic food, but then people started realizing all the processing and the chemicals they're putting into it. And then they started marketing organic food and charging a premium for those foods.
I love it. I love all three examples. I want to piggyback quickly on the second one, the Uber one. And it's something that it's true for majority of businesses. And you see a lot of people utilizing this. So you need to start with a product or a service. Let's take the product first. If you have the ability to sell 100 customer, you can sell 1,000 and 100,000 customers usually. So, but when you have the proof of concept being there, you know, not your mom and your sister, but you know that it's something that people like. The review, the value statement from it are extremely positive. Think about the customer. What all the customer that are buying my product, what other product could be good for the same customer who already trust me and trust the product that I'm selling, and do another one. So I like to use the the business that someone did, and he really wrote a book about this, or how to get to $1 million in 12 months. I love that. So you start with a yoga mat. It was a yoga mat, and it was a specific yoga mat who is very good against transpiration and things like the sweat and stuff like that. It took off. He sold like 5,000 the first month or something. So he has a proof of concept, and he immediately looked at something else, and he came up with a yoga pants, but the same with a high quality of yoga pants for people who buy that mat for yoga. And then the people who bought the first one buy the second one. The people who buy the second one go to the first one. Then he did like a towel for yoga towel or something. And he did five products. He put on the market 5 products the first year, and he reached $1 million just with one idea that works. And then he expand. Of course, Uber is another scale because it's different kind of investment,
right.
but it's literally what they do. Okay, everybody wants to go on their phone to order their next ride. Well, they can go to their phone to order the next pickup, the next delivery, and that's how everything goes. So always think about something, and when you have a proof of concept, look at those customers. What else could they buy from you?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting.
No, it's a great one. And I think that you touched on something that triggered my memory about, there was this really famous marketer back in the day. His name was Jay Abraham. If you ever see any of his old material, it's worth checking out. He was the first one that offered the full money back guarantee. He goes, because what you want to do is de-risk or eliminate the worry people have about making a purchase decision, because people don't like to be sold, but they like to buy. So how do you make it easy for them to buy? Eliminate risk. Well, one of the clients that he talked about back in the day was a air conditioning company, and they were trying to increase their client retention rate, because you fix an AC, it's usually pretty good for the next few years before you need another repair. And it's usually 8 to 10 years before you need a full replacement. And they're like, how do we get more revenue, recurring revenue? And they first started the maintenance, the monthly maintenance. So paid $95 a month or whatever. And then if you have a repair, that's already included, and it helped raise revenue. So here is again something, instead of thinking about it as a transactional interaction with the client, trying to create almost a membership program or a subscription service with AC. And now you see it all the time. Like that's everywhere, where they, especially the larger AC companies, they all offer that, right? Because it's recurring revenue.
I mean, you talk about the AC a couple of times the last few weeks, so I think that's your next business to go. WHS AC company, trust the WHS.
There we go. There we
I already have the slogan and everything.
I love it. Well, we are in Southwest Florida, and it is hot.
I know, that's needed. They need a replacement.
Yeah,
that's funny.
But I mean, it's step one: get your ideal customer. Think about who that could be, and then step two, what is your unique value proposition? What's something that's slightly different or drastically different that'll hook your client? Step three, to get to your first 100 customers of your new entrepreneurship venue. Leverage existing networks. I can't think of anyone better than how you built your travel agency. So I'm going to pass the baton to you, my friend, to talk about
Well,
this one.
yes, that one, I mean, of course, I use leverage a lot through social media. And that's what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, I think, about the fact that you don't need a large amount of investment for marketing when you first start because of social media. And I know a lot of people hate social media, even though it keeps growing every day. I saw the numbers about how many new accounts are built every day still on Facebook. It's like 6 figures a day.
Yeah.
I mean, who are these people? They were under the rock, or they're just building multi accounts? I don't know. But anyway,
Yeah.
so it's imperative if you have a business to have social media presence. First of all, credibility. People go more to Facebook to check businesses now than Google.
That's
So
wild.
that's how crazy it is. They will trust a lot more a page with great reviews and amount of followers and stuff like that than a Google review. All right. So I'm on both, but Facebook is so important. And to this day, I still didn't spend any money on Facebook ads. So it works without the ads. Now, consistency is very important. And the leverage piece, leverage what you have at your disposition. Leverage what you can do on social media in order to be successful. Leverage the people to share, like you said, for every one of our episodes. Please share, and it's helping. I see people sharing bullshit all day about their favorite actor, their favorite singers, their favorite brands online nonstop. Are you getting something out of it? No, you're just helping a very well, rich organization or rich people even more, and it's okay. But do the same for the small businesses, for people because that's something that triggers me less now because I get used to it. When I see people like sharing stuff like this and not sharing or small business that we work so hard every day to advertise. So that's a little parenthesis, but share that because it costs you nothing, but it's a big thing. So if you have 2,000 followers and you share something, 2,000 people have eyes on our business. So that costs nothing and it helps. But anyway, use those platforms. And I said Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. I mean anything X. Anything would be so important. Thank people when they share.
Oh, yeah.
Like, thank you. So I see sometimes a lot of posts who share that doesn't even like or heart. I always make sure that everybody who do something, I just put a heart on. Sometimes I make a little comments and things like that. But remember that because it goes both ways, and then help their business, their page. It's a given and receiving, but it's very important to be consistent with all of this. But you can be successful, or you can definitely get to your first 100 customer on social media. Maybe not tomorrow, but depending on your following, you will be there eventually. And I think it's the most important. Then it's all about consistency because people always look at you, even though they don't mention anything, they don't like it, they don't follow you maybe, but they see every post that you post. And after a few months, like I mentioned, like months ago on one of our episodes, people, oh my God, you're serious about this? I see not for half a year that you're posting every day. Oh yeah, well, yeah, I'm serious about it. And that's where they take you seriously. And that's where the appreciation for people start coming. And that's where they start reaching out when they need something based on your business, service or product.
Yeah, because they know you're serious and you're not fly by night. It's not a hobby. You're actually trying to build a business, So yeah, totally agree. Nothing to add. I think that you covered it very well. I will say just kind of the flip side, and this kind of ties into step 4 a little bit. So don't think you need a large advertising budget to start. You just heard from my co-host that you can go on social media, that's free. So don't think just because you're going to take $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 and invest into marketing, that all of a sudden that's going to bring a wealth of riches. You got to have the fundamentals down, and no better way to test it with doing social media and leveraging free forms of advertising. Step 4 to get to 100 customers as quickly as you can is use early access or beta launches. So I can talk about this one quickly because I have a real life personal example. So I had 2 family members approach me about starting a paver business, and they have a unique way of creating the pavers out of concrete, but it looks like wood. So it is very attractive. And actually, we did our whole backyard with it now, which is very cool. But I'm like, all of a sudden they start, well, we could buy these kits and we can lease the space. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like size the market, right? So one of the easiest ways, and people don't think about this, and it's really so easy. And I think I may have alluded to it in a previous episode. If you ever see somebody who needs like a long time for delivery, like 4 to 6 weeks, this is what they're doing. Put on a website or put a social media post advertising it and see if you get what kind of response you get. And so, for example, in the one thing that I was thinking, you'll see these custom jerseys, right? They're not necessarily fully licensed NFL apparel, but they look cool. So I'm like, what the heck, they'll have 4 to 6 weeks of delivery. So what they're doing is they're trying to collect the orders and then they'll submit a batch request to the manufacturing company so they get better pricing on it and then deliver it, right? Now, what if you're not talking about a product? What if you're talking about a service? Same thing. Like if you're going to promote a service. So here's the funny thing. They actually listen to me. How many times does a family member listen to you? Not usually often. They listen to me. My son put a social media post about these pavers. And he didn't get inquired about people wanting to buy the pavers, but he got inquired from people who wanted him to install pavers. So now he opened up another revenue stream for his business and he's getting some paver job. And he's like, listen, I'm not an expert in it, but I will give you this rate because I'm not an expert in it. I'll have somebody supervise. And so he got something like that. So here he had an idea about maybe doing X, but he ended up with a different income opportunity Y. At the end of the day, building the business on that one. So that was the example I wanted to share with that. But any thoughts or anything you have about like test marketing?
No, I love what you said, because not only they wait to see the interest for the customer, but it also gets, because usually you have to put some money down. And so they don't need to advance any money, zero budget money. You just get the money from the customer. You send that to your manufacturer, usually in China for those things. And then you wait 6 weeks, 2 months to get the thing. And then you get paid the second part. And that's actually in your pocket, because the deposit is usually what you pay for the manufacturer. So yeah, it works both ways. So if you don't have a large investment money or very little, think about out of the box what you can do, and usually you can find ways to get things done that way. So
yeah, absolutely. Think out of the box. Step 5, create value with content. This kind of touches a little bit earlier with the social media, but I think the key thing out of this one is be credible, right? Like build credibility. You don't have to be an expert, but act as if on that. And then step 6 is also kind of aligned, but ask for referrals. Once you have 10 to 20 happy users, the quickest way to get from 20 sales to 100 sales, ask them to refer 1 to 2 people. Word of mouth still wins. You do this phenomenally well. I've seen it both in your written communications as well as verbal when you're talking to people, because you follow up with them when they come back from the trip. But I don't want to steal your thunder. Any thoughts on that one?
It's very easy. When the first question is always, when they come back from the trip the day after, I always send a little message. And I'm like, hey, Joe, welcome back. Can you tell me more about your experience? What did you like? And I'm very positive. Based on their response, 99% of the time, it's always, oh, it was fantastic. I love this. Okay, great. At that time, I said, would you mind putting a review for me? And I send the link. So it's very easy for them to just click and do it. Then I always ask, okay, since you're really happy with the service provided, do you know anyone around you who would love to have a all-included service delivery for their next vacation? Oh, let me talk to my sister, to my neighbor, and things like that. And that's how I start building. But you need to follow up with, and that the secret of follow up is so very true. I know it's everybody said that, but not a lot of people are doing it. So follow up. Hey, Joe, I'm getting back to you like 2 weeks later. You mentioned that you're going to say a word about this. Do you have maybe their email address or the stuff, or their cell phone, so I can send a little introduction, after you talk to them. And so sometimes you don't get a response, and it's okay. But most of the time you will get a response. And people like small business, people who grind without being pushy. and I don't feel like I'm pushy. I just have a rigor about what I do. If they tell me no, I don't think about anyone, but if someone mention it, I will mention you. Okay, great. That's not the best, but I send the message. But if they tell me yes, I will talk to XYZ, then I follow up because they give me the authorization to do so by telling me they're going to do it with specific people. So don't hesitate to do that because it's going to come back more often than not. But referrals are key, and it's the easiest marketing. It's free marketing. It's easy. Always do that. Also for travel, and it works for other services. Always mention, hey, you love this product. You love the service. Anyone else for the travel? Anyone else that you would like to have coming with you on your vacation? I booked a few additional staterooms the last 2 months by just asking that question because they don't think about it. Oh yeah, my usually sister, brother, and her husband and his wife, they would love to have. That would be cool if they come. Let me mention, actually, that would be a good thing. Or if there's already 2-3 stateroom, anybody else, because if you reach 8, then I can do something additional price-wise. So always seeing what other people could be using it at the same time in order to get the better rate or better, more people is always better.
Yeah, totally agree. And not that this is a referral necessarily per se, but ask people to leave reviews for you on Google and things like that. I know you've gotten stuff from that when people left reviews, and it also adds credibility back to that earlier step. So there you have it, folks. 6 steps to help you take your newly fledgling business and building a first 100 client business out of it. It may take a little bit at first. In fact, it may take a lot of it at first in terms of time, but be patient, consistent, and the momentum will build over time. Quick call to action on something like this. Pick one of the steps out of the 6 and start it this week. So whether that's your client profile, your value proposition, or one of the social media or other things that we talked about, just pick one and get started this week. You just think about it, and all of a sudden you do that consistently. Before you know it, you will have 100 customers, and then you'll be on your way to your next 1,000. So,
and let us know when you do it. When you do it, let us know so we can also, shout out your new business and help you also build.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great point. All right, winners. So thanks again. Please be sure to share, subscribe, and follow 2 for the Win on your favorite platform. And also want to give a shout out again to nickmenard.com and the 1% Push and his Amazon best-selling book, Mindset is My Degree. That'll do it for this Monday, Mindset Winners. We'll see you next week.
Bye, winners.